Bienvenue à Repousser les limites. Mon nom est Jeff Dussault. Ça me fait tellement plaisir de vous accueillir sur ce nouvel épisode. Je vous souhaite une bonne écoute. Welcome at Repousser les limites. This week is special episode with elite runners from Wrightwood, California. He's running for New Balance. He's running for Naak, and is active on the ultra trail for more than 15 years. So Dominic Grossman, thanks a lot for accepting the invitation.
Oh yeah, pleasure to be here. Really excited to join this podcast. I know I don't have any French to contribute, but I'm glad to I guess give a little bit of perspective of I think we're the farthest, almost as far as way you can be in North America.
Yes, exact, with 3 hours delay.
yeah, Los Angeles is the closest city to me, and I'm in the mountains just above it. So
yeah, nice. Okay, so how did the sport arrive in your life?
So I was running cross country and track through U.S. Naval Academy, and I was kind of one of those runners that was really passionate, really competitive, but you know it was pretty hard work for me every week to try to get on the traveling squad. A lot of times I was on the B list or whatever, and so I had a lot of passion. I was really dedicated, but I didn't quite have the talent and the foot speed to be, an elite varsity, athlete. But I trained a lot with the team, and I was really hoping that there was something longer that I could run that would, give me the opportunity to show my passion and my dedication. And for what it was worth, the Dean Karnazes book, Ultramarathon Man, came out, and
Yes, good classic.
Oh yeah, total classic, and just the adventures that he had running Western States and running. Through the night and training and doing, a self-propelled, Ragnar relay style race on his own. That was very inspiring to me. And so when I came back to Los Angeles, it was like a eureka moment of this is what I need to do. I need to get into these races. I need to do these things that give me an outlet. And so it was really special to do my first few races. In 2008, I got to do a 50K in July, a 50 miler in August, and a 100 miler in September. And so doing those back to back.
Wow, in your first year?
Yeah, it was first 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know.
What happened in your 100 mile?
It went pretty hard. The 50K was good. I got third place. The 50 miler, I had a really bad IT band problem. It was more of a mountainous 50 miler, and it was pretty rough. It was middle of the pack. And then my 100 miler, I knew that I had, still had to figure out my IT band issues, and I tried to wear a brace or whatever to help with it. But I was just totally committed to just doing it. I didn't care what place I got. And so I kind of experienced it. It was a funny moment during it. I had a very small headlight, and it wasn't very bright. But when I ran in LA on the trails around LA, it was bright enough because there was a lot of glow from the city that kind of illuminated the trails. But it was not bright enough for where the race was in Northern California. And so I just begged this other a woman that was running if she could just run slow enough so my headlight could pick up the reflectors on her shoes. So at least if I could see her shoes, that I could see where the rocks were. And she let me run behind her, and it was a tough race, but I finished it, and everything started to get better from then on out. Started to read more and learn more and understand more. But back in the day, there wasn't a big social media aspect. Yeah. There was
yes,
Facebook.
Of course. Did you run with real trail running shoes?
Yes.
Decent equipment except the light.
Yeah, the funny thing with the trail running shoes is that everything back then was relatively heavy and it was more stiff. Stiff was the word I'd use to describe. And then,
Okay.
things kind of started to lighten up. There was the Minimus and the New Balance MT100 and the Solomon Sense that came, and then Hoka came, and everything got
Yeah.
thicker.
Yeah.
But back then it was like there were like, basically think of a hiking boot, but then take some layers out of it, and that was what they called a trail running shoe. It was basically a lightweight hiking boot. It was
Okay.
low cut. Yeah.
So there's one quote that changed my life, and that's what of the main reason I connect with you on Instagram and social media. And your quote, I don't remember where I saw it first time, but the quote is, it's a mantra for me for ultras. The trail is indifferent to your existence and your suffering. So what is the story behind this?
Oh, so one of the things that I think ultra running is really good for is that it helps you to find yourself and to grow as just a human being.
Oh,
Because
yes, of course.
and you when you take your last class, whether it's high school or college, and you go out into the world and you get a job, and you're just living your life. There's only so much required of you. You need to do your job. You need to feed yourself. You need to take a shower or whatever. Maybe go to the doctor, go to the dentist, but there's very little that's required of you. And so you can be relatively very domesticated, is like a word. You can
Yeah.
just, never worry about anything, difficult. Even like, for example, like we have in the States, we have a AAA, which is the automobile club that will, if you get a flat tire, they'll come change your flat tire for you. You don't have to do anything yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So trail running's different because the hills are real. The rocks are very hard. When it's cold, it's really cold. When it's hot, it's really hot.
The downhill is very tough when you're breakdown.
Yep. Yeah. When you're sore and you've got to get down a mountain, there's no other way down the mountain but on your 2 feet, as long as you can keep going.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that one of the things you have to realize is that in your normal everyday life, you can push a button on your phone, you can call someone, whatever. They'll come to help you and take care of you as long as you can have a little bit of money. You can do. There's someone's going to help you out and take care of you. But trail running is different. Trail running is, here's the aid stations. They may be 5 miles apart. They might be 15 miles apart. You've got to get to them on your own 2 feet. And if something goes wrong, you got to fix it. If something breaks on your pack, and if you're just tired, if you're beat up, it's on you. And so it's just it's a mind shift and a paradigm shift of, the world is my oyster versus the world is not worried about me and I've got to take care of myself. And so, but one of the good things though is that once you get good at taking care of yourself, you can do, I really reflect on some of like the really remote places I've been able to run in a single day. And I think, there are so few people that have been here, let alone experience it the way that I'm experiencing it in a very relatively quick fashion rather than a hiking fashion with a heavy pack. I'm running with a relatively light pack, and I'm getting to see these tops of these giant peaks and deep and vast canyons, and and it's sometimes I have to go cross country for one race or another, or just one route or another, and so it's a really exciting thing to go from, okay, I need someone to take care of me, to I can take care of myself, to, oh, there's this whole other world out there that no one else really has a chance to experience because they haven't figured out how to take care of themselves. And so once you embrace that the trail is indifferent to you, it's this very special feeling that you could go anywhere and do anything under your own power if you really put your mind to it. So
Yes, of course. And like it's the contrast with road marathon, because you have water at 3 kilometers and whatever you have help on, you have problem, you stop, and it's easy to quit. But on 100 mile with 10 miles apart, 8 station, yes. So it's very good. I appreciate. I really like it. So, how did you think about this?
How did I get into it, or how did I decide to?
Yes. So, how this quote happened? So, you think about it? You about trail running? Your by your
Yeah,
own?
yeah. I was just out in races and stuff, and it was coming from a cross country and track background. Those races are relatively short compared to even a
Yeah.
50K is just very long.
Yeah.
And so 10K, doesn't, if you're having a bad time, you just got to kind of grit through it, and you'll be at the end of the 10K in 10, 15 minutes, maybe 25
Mm-hmm.
minutes, depending on when things go bad. But it can be hours in a 50 kilometer, 100
Yeah.
kilometer, 160 kilometer, several hours. And there is a race I did, the Hard Rock 100,
Oof.
in in 2012. And the tough thing about that race is the altitude makes it really tough to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer you go in the race, the more that your body just breaks down. And I got to a point in that race where I was kind of crawling literally on all fours, trying to get up this side of this mountain, because I hadn't had enough protein, and I'd eaten food, but the protein wasn't, I didn't have enough protein, so I didn't have the ability to process the food. There's a phenomenon that happens where you have enzymes in your stomach, and when you don't
Mm-hmm.
have protein for so long, you run out of those enzymes, you won't be able to process food very well. So if you can eat something and it doesn't do anything, it's kind of just eat a gel and it just goes through you, it doesn't do anything. And so I was
Yeah.
crying on all fours, and I was just so despondent. I was like 13 miles to go, and my friend Jamel Curry, he was like, maybe you need to eat something else. But I kind of was like, it was the lowest low I've ever had in a race, and I didn't know I was going to crawl on all fours to the end. But luckily, helped me to eat something and try a protein bar, and so I did. But it was this very very honest and clear moment of the trail just doesn't care. Like I am at my
Mm.
I'm at my limit. I'm on all
Yeah.
fours. I can't stand up even. I mean, I'm passing, I'm fainting, on the verge of fainting, and the trail just didn't care. There's
Yes.
no other way out of it but on my own. So I think that was definitely like one of the formative moments. And so after that race, I had a lot a lot of respect for that course. But I started to shift the way that I looked at all races. That that's how bad it can get. That's the limit of, or maybe not the limit, but it's one of the darkest moments I've had. And that you need to, if you want to keep doing this and you want to keep having fun, you got to accept that the black moments and dark moments are going to come.
Oh, yes, of course. And you're a very good place to talk about tough moments. You run your first 100 mile in your first season trail running. So, of course, you experience it. So, what did you achieve you're most proud of the moment in the last 15 years of your trail running?
Um,
You ran the Hard Rock, you ran the Western State, a lot of major race.
yeah, that's tough to pick one, but I guess the thing that sticks out the most right now is um, I've won races, I've had success, and then I became a father in 2018, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a big shift, because I really like being a good father, but I also know that running for yourself is kind of selfish and it takes time away. It makes me, puts me in a better mood, makes me happy, but it just takes time away from my daughters. And so this last year in January, I was signed up in 2022 for the Cocodona 250-mile race,
Yeah.
and I was trying to train, and my daughters were having we'd had during the pandemic less daycare, and then we'd come back into daycare, and they were just getting sick all the time,
Mm-hmm.
just different stomach bugs and whatnot, and then they're coming home and getting me sick. And I was trying to still be a good dad for them, but I'd have to get my running in whenever I could, and so I'd go out at night, late at night, like I'd put them down at 9:30 to go to sleep, and I go run past midnight, try to get 20 miles in, and then go to bed, and then wake up and take care of them next day. And
Wow.
and it was definitely like really tough to train through the winter and try to deal with that. And I was going kind of hard. And then I believe it was end of February, early March, my wife broke her leg skiing.
Ooh.
And so I went from taking care of 1 to 2 kids, depending on how she was doing, 1 to 2 kids. Then all of a sudden I was taking care of 2 kids and her. And so it was really hard.
Yeah.
And she was trying to do what she could, but she had a broken leg, so she couldn't do that much. And so it was just one of those tough things where I had to make a decision. Am I still going to do this race, or am I going to, just not start, just drop out before I start? And we talked about it. I said, I think I can do it, as long as you can, as long as you don't break your leg again. Because she thought she'd be like in a walking boot by the time the race was at the start of May. So as long as you don't break your leg again, but we're gonna try. And so it was one of the toughest training blocks ever. I only ran maybe around 60 to 80 kilometers a week. And normally for a race that long, I try to do a lot more, at least 100 kilometers or not more a week. But it was like around 60 on average. And so I was, but the tough thing was that I had to do it all kind of with sleep deprivation. So I had to learn to go at night when everyone was asleep and everyone was safe, because I didn't want the kids waking up, in the middle of the night and, making my wife hurt herself. So I just had to like be kind of on edge and do everything I could. And when the race came, I still was getting these stomach bugs for my kids. The day before the race, they gave me another stomach bug, and I was just so sick and miserable. And I was like, man, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Luckily, it cleared up for the morning of, and my wife was in a walking boot, and I was like, so we're doing this, right? She's like, yep, we're doing it. And she took care of me, and I ran the whole race solo with no pacers, and she took care of the kids. They were camping out of the back of our truck, and she did it all every day, taking care of me. And so like when we finished it, I was like, yeah, it wasn't easy for my daughters, wasn't easy for my wife, definitely wasn't easy for me. I was like hallucinating and sleepwalking through it. But I got it done, and it was just like the most proud feeling of like everything that I'd learned in trail running. I had to take that to the level of like everything applied, and so I had to figure out how to keep myself fed, and because like the aid stations at that race are like 18 miles apart. So 18 miles when you're going slow and you're tired is like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yes, and this race is in the desert. Could be very hot some parts, so
hot and cold. Yeah. So it was just really special to finish that race. And when we finished, we rested in Flagstaff where the finish was for a day, and then we went to Las Vegas, and we just had the time of our lives. Just ate all the food, played in the wave pool, and just had a great time. And so
wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
So I bet you have the motivation. You thought about your training on night and all the tough you had on this race, and you're, oh fuck, I need to finish it.
Yeah.
It's motivation.
That's one of the funny things that about that race is like you normally in a 160 kilometer race, you get to 80 kilometers, you're like, whoa, halfway, wow. Halfway, that's great. Well, I get to 80 kilometers, and that's 1/5, And I'm like, I'm tired at 80 kilometers, but that's just 1/5. And then, I get to 100 miles, 160 kilometers, and I'm like, still 100 miles. That's a long way. It's normally like the furthest that I run is normally 100 milers. No, not another 150 to go from 100 miles. Okay. And so it was like a very like every time I got some distance, I thought I was very proud of myself, and I was like, no, it's much further. And then like the first time I crossed over 200 miles, still 50 miles. But it was a thing where every time so I had my phone on me for safety, and I could see the race tracking wherever the other people were. And so I'd be like on the top of one mountain, I'd look back across the valley, back across the desert to another mountain. And yeah, those are people all the way, 50, 60 miles behind me on that other mountain. So I kind of felt like I had to keep going. They were going, they have
Mm-hmm.
much further than me. And so I've got to keep going. And also I just didn't want to say, oh, I only got to mile 150 or I only got to mile 200 and then I stopped. It was like, no, that's the worst story, to say I ran the furthest I've ever ran, but I didn't finish the race. That's like the worst story. You want to just finish it and say on a high note, and I did it. And
So in the near future, are you interested to do more 200-mile race like the Triple Crown or those kind of things?
yeah, I'm signed up for Cocodona again.
Yeah.
It kind of works out. It's relatively local to where we live. It's a few hours away, and
Okay.
the course I did last year had to be routed because of fire. So I'm going to do the real course, the original course. It starts near
Yes,
Phoenix.
yes, I remember last minute last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start and do this race and do it in Phoenix to Flagstaff. And um, my wife, she's also a runner, competitive runner. She's had some complications from having kids. She's had some hip problems. She had to have surgery to take a tumor out of her abdomen. So
Oh,
she's kind of been through the ringer.
okay.
And I've been lucky that I've been healthy throughout her pregnancies and childbirth. So I've gotten to do a lot of races. So I'm trying to focus on helping her through the her summer and her fall, hoping that she can get back to her race, hopefully. So
Okay. So she's pacer for you sometime? Do you pace her
yeah,
or cruise?
yeah, she's done the Hard Rock 100 as well, and I've paced her there and other
Nice.
races. Yeah, and so we usually like to support each other at races. We hate not being there for each other, and so we like to take time to look after each other and support each other's training. And so
Mhm.
she's doing a little more skiing right now. I'm skiing, but I'm also trying to get some running in as well. It's tough because I really like to ski too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's good. It's some of it's good training for strengthening your quads and your knees. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm trying to get some miles in and get my base going for Cocodona, so that we're 100 days out now, and I'm hoping that around 60 days out, I've had a good base. I can start doing some more workouts and longer runs, and then by the last month, I feel pretty fit. So that's the
Okay.
goal.
Okay, amazing. So, what is your key things you think you do to keep consistency on the last 15 years? Because you do a lot of podium, you win race, you make top 15 at Hard Rock, top 20 at Western State, which is very, very competitive race.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your key thing to be consistency?
Yeah, it's I've been lucky that I've tried different things. Like I've tried very high mileage training. I've tried a lot of workouts, different diets, and I think I've just tried my best to be very pragmatic about what's worked for me and what hasn't.
Mhm.
One thing
To
is I've
be
learned
open
is,
mind for everything.
oh yeah, definitely. And it's easy to be kind of dogmatic or very like this is the way, there's no other way,
Mhm.
this is the one way to do things. And what I've learned is that the more open-minded you are, the more you kind of pick from different philosophies, pick from different things. Like I consider myself an omnivore. I eat all different types of foods. Every type of food offers some type of health benefit to you, whether
Mhm.
it's one source or another. And so that's worked for me. Realizing that I don't have to necessarily do as much mileage as I used to do. I think the older you get, the more like the miles kind of a cumulative effect, and so you can
Mhm.
get you can get in shape and kind of call on those old miles that you did before.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
the
don't have
experience
to do
too.
exactly. Yeah, and your the other key term I like to use is body awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you're running and you have good form or bad form, if you kind of notice it and pick it up, you know, the way that you pick your knees up or pick your feet up or you swing your arms, it helps you to sustain yourself for a longer race. So what you don't want to do is say, oh, I have a blister, oh, my knee hurts, and I'm just going to keep pushing through it. You want to try to fix your problems. And if you can fix your problems, whether that's some type of stretching or massage or some type a different type of shoe, different type of gear, then you can be you know, more resilient and consistent. And you know, by trade, I'm an engineer. I work in aerospace, and you know, the planes that we build, we learn a lot of things from the first plane. And as you learn those things, you incorporate them on the second plane and the third plane, and you have to be kind of very aware of all the things that can go wrong, because you know, your system is a there's no unnecessary systems really, you know, on an aircraft that we build. So my system, the fuel system, it has to work reliably. It has to keep the fuel balanced. It's got to keep it warm enough so it doesn't freeze and gel. It's got to keep feeding the engine no matter what. The engine cannot you know, keep working if it doesn't have fuel going to it. And so it's a similar, you know, engineering mindset of, you know, organizing, planning, being very critical with all the decisions I make. And so, you know, the few races that I've had to drop out of, you know, I've learned a lot from them. They've been failures that have given me a lot of feedback and lessons. And so I've tried my best to every time I go into a race, you know, have the right mindset, have the right gear, have the right training, have the right food, have the right, you know, just everything top to bottom, because you can go into a race very fit, but if you have the wrong mindset, you can blow up very easily and say, oh, I'm not going as fast as I wanted to go,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm done. Well, you know, no one gets to go as fast as they want to go. No one gets to be a bird and, you know, fly through the sky. We're all, you know, human beings, and so you have to remember to, you know, humble yourself a little bit when things don't go well. And yeah, I'm hoping it keeps working out for me. Knock on wood that it doesn't stop, because I really enjoy it. I'm 36 and I've been doing it since I was 20. So yeah, it's been a long good run.
Mm-hmm. So, is there a race you didn't done? It's your on your wish list. On your bucket list. You really want to do it.
It's a good question. I've gone to do a lot of races I'm really excited about. There's probably some European ones, um, like Ultra Trail Mont Rosa.
Okay,
I
you
might
have done UTMB.
UTMB I've done, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's other ones around there, like in the Swiss Alps, in Italy.
Yeah.
Tour de France, I'm interested in that. I know it's a very brutal race, very difficult, very painful, but I'm interested in Tour de France. Um, I think though, for the most part, I've really enjoyed the races that I've gotten to do a lot. So I've done a lot of them, you know, repeatedly, like Angeles Crest, I've ran 8 times, and it's the reason I live here in Wrightwood is I love the course. Um, I've done Hard Rock 3 times. I'd like to go back to Western States again. Um, but yeah, I think there's more international races I like to get to see, more parts of the world. It was really exciting and fun when I ran UTMB, and I learned a lot about, you know, the culture in France and Italy and Switzerland. It was very exciting to experience that. So
Okay. Amazing. So, how did you arrive to balance your life with your 2 kids young, your training, your full-time job, your wife, and all all the thing you have at the same timing?
oh yeah, it's very very difficult. I think you know, everyone has a different setup and a different story. For me, you know, I was really close with my parents, and especially my dad. I just really uh, we were very kindred spirits, and my dad, over the course of his life, developed Parkinson's disease, and unfortunately, was a very aggressive. And so I think it was about 13 years that he had it until he passed away. And so it was something that I definitely took from a very strong lesson I took from him, is that as he got it, he was diagnosed with it and it progressed. He just really savored every moment with his kids. He was very nurturing and loving, and he knew that time was very limited. He was very aware of it, and he made the most of it every single day with us. And one of the last memories I have with him was he was living on the East Coast, and he came out to my race. He surprised me. He had Parkinson's and is pretty aggressive, but he chose to come out on his own. Rented a Ford Mustang convertible, drove himself from the airport to the end of the race, and he surprised me at the end of the race. I was like, "How did you get here?" He wasn't doing so well, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the Mustang's a little touchy, on the gas." And he was just like, could have gotten accident, he could have gotten hurt, but he knew his son was running a race, and it was the sweetest thing. I got to win the race and see him at the finish line with me, and it was just like the most special thing. And so I kind of really took that on. We had our first kid, that they're like the most, I'm if I had to put anything first, and it's not that I sacrifice everything else in my life, but the first thing I am is a dad. That's the first thing I am. And so when my daughter was born, I was really excited, really, really nervous. She was born 10 days before a race I was supposed to do, Angeles Crest again. And every time I'd come in an aid station with her, I give her a kiss. And there's this thing that when the kids are born, they put off these pheromones, so they bond with you. So I had this emotional bond with her. When I leave the aid station, I just would be crying because I just wanted to be with her. That's all I wanted. And that was the first time I dropped at that race, a mile 60, because I just wanted to be with her. And so I kind of have learned and realized that as a parent, if you have the right intentions, you can make the most of the time that you do have with your kids. And then, you can let them have their own lives too. You can let them go to daycare. You can let them, have friends. But then, when we go skiing together, we have the most fun when we, just play at night before they go to bed. We play hard, and we, if they want to read more books, we read more books, and it's kind of a thing where I try to make that time that I get to spend as dad is as good as I can, and is nurturing, as helpful as I can. Doesn't mean I let them eat cookies and snacks all the time, even though they really want to eat cookies and snacks all the time. But I try to do the best job I can in that. And then once I do that, when I leave to go for a long run or to go to work or to go skiing, I know that at least I gave them the best that I could. And I don't have to look behind me and feel bad. I know that they know that they're loved, and I know that they know that they're special, and they're valuable people. And so I'm just trying to do that for as long as I can. Hopefully I keep doing a good job at it, and they still like me when they get older.
Thank you for sharing this, and I'm so sorry for your dad, but it's very, very interesting story. So it's good lesson to learn too. So, and that's very fun to follow you on Instagram. We see a lot of at the moment, a lot of story with your kids skiing. It's nice. So, and my girlfriend is a little bit jealous because your your daughter is better skied than my girlfriend.
As if they have bumper stickers they'll put on cars that say like, "My child is an honor student," or whatever. And we were like talking about, because this was the first year that she's able to ski on her own from the top of the mountain. And it was like, I think we need a bumper sticker that says, "My 4-year-old skis better than you."
Yes, perfect. So what so I asked a little before, but what accomplishment you're most proud of it since you're running, but not single race, but in the whole running career you have at the moment?
I guess one of like the cooler adventure runs is my wife and I, we did the High Sierra Trail, which crosses the Sierra Nevada, and we tried really hard doing a push. It's about 80 mile or 70 miles or so. And it goes, over the top of Mount Whitney, the highest point in the lower 48, 14,500 feet. It does all these things. And so it was a pretty tough run. We did, with all the stuff on our back. We got lucky that we ran through the night, and we were supposed to catch a bus the next day, but we missed the bus. So we got lucky that we stayed at a hut about 10 miles from the finish, and then the next day we got a ride from another hiker. So we were lucky, but it was a pretty cool experience to just, that there was no aid stations when we did that. We went about 60 miles with, no one that was able to help us. There were some water sources, but no one was able to help us. So we're just on our own in the middle of the mountains, no self-service, no nothing. And that was a pretty fun experience to do with my wife before we had kids. And hopefully we'll do it again with the kids sometime as they get better at doing long distance and hiking and running. We're hoping that we just we share everything we do, almost everything we do with them. So that's kind of why they're
nice. So did your kid are hiking?
We're starting now to hike with them. So last year, my 3-year-old, she was carried some and also hiking some up to a 14,000 foot peak in Colorado, Handy's Peak on the Hard Rock course.
Wow.
And then she ran down all the way on her own. So we kind of are like, this, you can do whatever you want, but this is, we're your parents and we're going to go do this. And so that's how they've kind of gotten good at skiing and just hiking more. We go on hikes and runs together. And my 4-year-old, she does like to run downhill, and she'll run, but she'll run for a little bit. Then she wants us to play a song so she can dance on the trail, and she'll like run dance down the trail. So apologies if we've disturbs your peace. If we have any listeners that have encountered us on a trail listening to pop music as she runs and dances down the trail, but she has fun. She definitely has fun.
Nice. So I bet you have a big influence on them.
Yeah, they we spend they go to daycare 3 days a week, but we spend a lot of time the rest of the time together, and we bond a lot, just doing, being there for each other, because, sometimes parents have bad days too, and you need a hug from a kid, and that hug they give you is the best feeling. So we definitely, we're an integrated family, I'd like to say.
Nice. So did you have idols when you start running that inspire you?
Yeah. Early on, Anton Kripicka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He had a blog, and he would write about his training, and he was doing just gigantic mileage, 200 miles in a week up at altitude, back to back to back to back. And it was very inspiring, because very early 2000s trail running was it was very conservative. It was, you only hike up hills. You carry a big pack with all your water. You always carry extra water, extra food, and it was very conservative. And he was more of a risk taker.
More minimalist.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
Like people don't realize, like, these were shoes that were basically like, a little bit better than sandals. They had like a little rock plate in them, a little bit of foam, but they were very thin, close to the ground. And when we started running for New Balance, I got to meet him, and he's just a very like dedicated person, and his life just was totally focused on his running. I never got the chance to be a totally full-time professional runner. My engineering career still was always a part of my life, but I did spend a lot of time doing like 100-mile weeks. I did 10 100-mile weeks in a row. I learned that it's for me personally, it wasn't as helpful. I got very fit, but then my hormones got off, and I couldn't run and get endorphins for a while. For like a couple of years, I had trouble with my basically, like, running, is fun because it releases endorphins and adrenaline, and my adrenal glands more or less were kind of exhausted, and so I had to take a much more muted approach to my mileage. And so I still was a very fit and talented runner, but I couldn't run that many miles a week. I had to run much less, and then I started to learn more about Dylan Bowman, and kind of the training he does, and he's actually become a good friend of mine over the years. We talk a lot and text back and forth, but his
Nice.
where his training focused more on was doing more workouts, so
Mm-hmm.
2-3 interval workouts a week, and more of a 80 miles a week, 70 miles a week, sometimes 90 miles a week for a big race, but not well over 100 miles like Anton. And so I learned a little bit more there from him about the value of building fitness. And then I also have a good friend, Andy Pearson, who does 100-mile, 200-mile races. And he lives local in Los Angeles. And so we get together and train a lot. We just bounce ideas off of each other. He's got a goal to finish the Barkley marathons. And we kind of, talk about that, and we talk about 200 milers. He's also doing Cocodona 250. And so, we're just, at some point you realize you just got to talk through things with friends. And when you talk through them out loud, you can kind of help, and you have someone who's a good listener and giving you advice and asking you questions. You can kind of synthesize what you want to do. And so he's good as well.
So, do you do a lot of cross training, and what is your favorite cross training?
I like to joke that my number one is playing with my kids. My upper body has grown since I've had kids, because they're like 25, 30 pounds, and so you have to pick them up, you've got to walk with them, you've got to carry them, you've got to, when they want to dance, you've got to swing them around. You have a full workout with them. But besides the playing with them, I also like, when I was at the Naval Academy, I kind of developed different core training for my core, my abdomen. I do a lot. I like to do lower body as well, like lunges and squats. I like to try to mix in some balance stuff, like on a Bosu board or a Swiss ball. That's good. One thing is, I've definitely noticed one of the really good workouts is if you can hang, like they have like chin-up bars, or they have bars you can hang on your elbows, doing knee tucks. So one of the tough things of sitting at a desk for a certain amount of time is that your hip abductors that are connect your hips to your core, those hip abductors can get kind of short and tight, and that's one of the reasons that sometimes people have bad quad pain in a race, is the hip abductors aren't firing as well, and so they're having a hard time picking up their feet and being engaged in their core. So I like to do those, hanging knee ups and lifting my legs up about the height of my face. I like to do that. And then also hamstring curls. So I'll lay on my back with my knees at a right angle on a Swiss ball, and then I'll pull on the ball to get my hips up. That helps a lot, because again, sitting on your hamstrings is not good. So
Okay. So,
yeah,
do you do biking and other sport too?
I do bike a little bit, not as much as I'd like to. I do a lot of ski touring in the winter.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Depends on the winter, how good of a winter we're having.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I basically hike up a mountain and then ski down it. That's a really good workout.
Okay. Nice. So how do you see yourself in the future in the next 10 years?
I'm hoping that the balance, like my time balance with my kids, I get better at it as they develop into the sports that they like to do. that maybe I have a little bit more time for training.
Mm-hmm.
I hope, I get better at my job, and so I can balance, priorities at my job, and I'm more capable. Because there's some days I have to work a little bit longer hours because I'm just learning something. So I'm hoping that I kind of get back to more training, idealistically, more balanced training, more biking, and everything. Um, and I'd like to continue doing like 100-mile and 200-mile races. I think those are like my favorite. Um, and yeah, just get better at them. I've learned a lot over the past few years, and I think that if I had just a little bit more time, just a little bit, things where my life was a little bit simpler, I could compete more aggressively, which is what I really like to do. That's what I love the most in ultra running. It doesn't matter necessarily the time; it's the thrill of chasing someone at the end of a race. Going for that podium spot or that win is always exciting. And I think I have the experience and the talent. My time is a little bit limited, but I have the potential to be more competitive.
Yes, yes, of course. So at the moment, do you do a specific training for Cocodona? And did you have coach in the past? Do you have coach, or you're more by yourself?
I'm more by myself. I like to try to make a train plan and try my best to follow it. I know with
Like your
coaches.
engineer side, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I like tinkering. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
taking things apart and working on them. So that's just my nature. I
Mm-hmm.
know a coach probably could help me more, but I read a lot, and I try to pick up what I can. And for Cocodona, what I've learned from experience is that sleep deprivation is kind of hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to train well with sleep deprivation, but it's also just a part of it. You have to get comfortable being out at night alone, and in dark in a very remote place. And so I like to do that mental training, do some night runs, and then for Cocodona, it's a very varied course. Some of it's very nice, and some of it's extremely rocky. And I'm going to try to make some time on some rocky trails, get comfortable with riding long downhills, because where I live in Wrightwood right now it's kind of snowy, and so I run either on a road or I go down about 15 minutes away, a little bit lower, to a dirt trail. It's very very gentle, and so I'm gonna just try to pick out more technical terrain. And then it's workouts, it's doing intervals. One of the key things I like to remember is that the intervals aren't about how fast you're going. Maybe you're running on a gentle climb or a steep hill, not very fast, maybe 7 minutes a mile, maybe 6 minutes a mile, like not like terribly fast, but it's about getting your heart rate up and changing the way that you run, rather than just being always doing long, slow runs. Doing a little bit of a faster run is really important. And so
So, just before to finish, what kind of hallucination did you have last year at Cocodona? I'm very curious of it.
yeah, had a few, had a few. So one thing that happened was my wife, I told her, hey, wake me up at this time. It was like 10, I was like, go at 10 p.m. I said, wake me up at midnight. I was going to sleep for 2 hours, and it was on the third day, and slept very little up to that point, like maybe an hour a day up to that
Okay.
point. And so I said, but just let me have 2 hours. And so my body went to sleep, started to sleep really hard, and she woke me up at midnight. And the dream I had been having was that there was like a forest fire. I was dreaming there was a forest fire, and that there were that I was just there helping out with the forest fire for whatever reason. That's what my dream was. And she woke up and she said, "Okay, what are you gonna wear? You're going on. It's middle of the night. It's cold. What are you gonna wear?" And I said, "My firefighting uniform." And she like looked at me and she's like, "Do you know where you are?" And I was like, uh, and I was still kind of I was like awake but dreaming, and I couldn't tell where I was. And she was like, "No, figure it out. Where are you?" And I was like, "Let me look at my phone. Maybe there's pictures on my phone I can look at." And I was like trying to work my phone. I couldn't like make sense of it. she's like, you can't leave until you know where you are and what you're doing. And then like finally I found some pictures of like the race, and I was like, I'm running a race. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm running a race. She's like, okay, where? What state? I was like, oh, what state? What state? It's not California. Arizona. And she was like, oh, thank God. And she was like, okay, do you know where you're going? Do you know where? I'm like, I follow the map. There's a map and I follow it, and I'm the dot and I follow the line. She's like, okay, you can go. But it was a good 15 minutes that took me to figure things out. It wasn't like that little, 1 minute. It was like really the gears were turning. And then the other thing that happened a lot during the race was, my kids, they'd be at the aid stations waiting for me, and they were, maybe a meter tall, maybe a little less. And I'd see tree stumps that were about a meter tall. And I always knew that, and I'd see them, I'd be close to the aid station. So I'd see a tree stump and I'd be like, it's never my kid. But I swore I saw them like hundreds of times. Wow. I was like, what are you doing here? No, not my kid. So yeah, that was kind of rough. And because I really did want to relax and be done with them, but I knew that like I'd committed to the race and I had to do it. And so there was like pictures of us at aid stations where they're just sitting on top of me, like I'm on my back laying down trying to rest, and they're just sitting on me. They're like, all right, you dragged us out here, we could do whatever we want. And so they were crewing me, but they also had their own needs. So there was a point I was at like mile 220, and my daughter took my hand and dragged me to the bathroom because she wanted to go to the bathroom. She was not going to wait for mom, who was making me a sandwich. She wanted me to take her to the bathroom. So in the middle of my race, I was helped my daughter go to the bathroom, which normally doesn't happen, but she'd been out there for 3 days. So she was like, hey, you're going to do what I say now. So yeah.
But that's kid, they don't realize it.
Yeah. No, they're just, I try to tell them like, hey, I've got to go run the race. And she was like, no, you come here. We're going to the porta potty.
Did they understand how sleep privation you are? And
they understand, but
they understand you are different, but you're still the dad.
Yeah, they understand it, but they're also just like, well, I'm still going to try to get you to do things for me. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what can you wish for this year? So what's your goal is to do better consistent, I bet, on Cocodona?
Yeah, I lost a bit of time at Cocodona with it's really, you have to eat a lot of food. And I get to an aid station and I'd eat like just a full-size meal, and it would take me a while to eat it. So I want to get better at eating on the run and keep my energy levels up between aid stations. Okay. I also, just stop at aid station and rest. And I want to get better at getting up, resting and then getting up and going rather than spending so much time in aid stations. It took me 85 hours, and I think I could do, maybe 12 hours faster if I just do everything better. This course will be a little bit tougher with more climbing. The original course I'm going to do, okay. But just get more strategic and then come into it a little bit better in shape, a little bit stronger.
And you have experience of the course and this distance too.
Yeah, and kind of knowing what each section looks like, how to take advantage of them. There are some sections that are just very technical and slow going. Other sections that are very good for running, and so making sure I make the most of the good miles. And yeah.
So, do you have any other race plan for this year?
I've been really lucky that my wife supported me so much as she's been going through her medical things, and we've kind of tried to be balanced. I'm trying to see what she's going to be interested in, how her training's going to go through the spring, and what race she's going to do. We may go, she wants to do a race in Whistler, Whistler Alpine Meadows.
Yeah, in September.
Yeah. So if she definitely ends up doing that and gets into it, then we'll kind of focus around that. And I might do another 100-mile race, maybe in August or towards the end of the year. I'm signed up for a lottery for a race in Oregon called the Waldo 100K. See if I get into that. But yeah, I also like to do different like adventure runs. So I
Like
might,
fast packing?
yeah, just really long distance. Maybe fast packing. We'll see. I've wanted to do the JMT, the John Muir Trail here in California through the High Sierra. I think it's something that now that I've done Cocodona, I at least have some experience with like being on my own for long periods of time and very tough terrain. So I know that that's a possibility, and we'll see if we could pull it off or not with kids. It's kind of hard with kids,
Yeah.
but we'll see. So yeah, there's other things. I just I don't. My wife and I, for the longest time, we were very equal in like the way that we treat each other, and the way that we talk to each other and behaved. And I know just inherently with her injuries, she hasn't gotten to do as much running as she likes, and I've gotten to do a lot more. And so I think my goal is to try to just help her
To find
balance
back,
things out.
yeah, to find back this balance.
Yeah, because that's like really important for me, is that she's happy and healthy. And I know it's hard for her to watch me do races and not get to do races herself. So
Yeah, of course. So I wish you the best of luck for Cocodona and all your project. And thank you a lot for your time. It's very appreciate.
no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you to all the listeners that are patient to listen to English for 1 week out of normal.
Yes. So nice. So have good season, have good preparation for Cocodona, and that's very nice.
Yeah, and best of luck to you with your running.
Yeah, thank you. I'm running the Vermont 100K
Oh,
in
awesome.
July. So it's my revenge. I did DNF and the year before pandemic. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
No, you
focused
gotta,
on that.
I tell people, if everything goes to plan, the beer at the end of it only tastes so good. But when everything, is hard earned and there's all this adversity and challenge, that just makes that meal afterwards and that drink afterwards just taste so much better when you know how hard you earned it. So you've already got a chip on your shoulder. So best of luck with that.
Yes, of course. Thank you. And also, I will remember the trail is indifferent to your existence, your suffering.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, thank you. And have a good day and have an amazing season.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.